Last weekend, I had a client with the most neutral undertone I have ever seen. So here's how we figured out her palette. What I always tell people is if we determine that you are a neutral undertone, what that generally means is you're just closer to the center than you are to either of the two extremes. You're still going to pull more one way than the other. In this client's instance, she was almost exactly in the center, and it was very difficult to determine if her home season was going to be warm or cool. However, since we knew that she was going to be a neutral season, we already knew she was going to be a flow palette. So to figure out what she was, we went instead to look at intensity and value. So value is looking at your depth of color or your lightness. And so we determined very quickly that she had much more deep coloring, rich coloring than light and airy coloring. Then we turned to look at the intensity of her coloring. Very soft colors kind of gave her a jaundiced, almost fevered look, but very bright colors didn't really do her any favors either. So in terms of intensity, she was actually somewhere in the middle. The palette that led me to is the deep palette. So the deep palette is the neutral one that sits between winter and autumn. After a lot of back and forth with the indicator drapes, I decided that she was leaning ever so slightly more toward winter being her home season. So her final palette in the 16 season system is a deep winter. So it's not always going to be very straightforward what your palette is, but we will always be able to figure it out.